Hello again, crafters. These are the cards we're going to make today. I thought I was going to create 3 shaker cards when I started, but I ended up with 7. And each idea builds down on the previous one. I'll explain it as we go. My first video, I showed you how to make the most common type of shaker cards. If you haven't watched that one, you might want to check it out after this video. Today, we will change one main element at a time to create very different and interesting results. The cards are also quick and easy to make. I had 3 easy ideas when I started, but the last one unfolded into 4 variations. Um, just a warning before we start. I am freezing, so I am wearing all the layers I can. That's why I have gloves and everything else. Let's get started. Our first idea is to use simple shapes as your shaker window. I use the butterfly, but you could use a star, circle, dome, diamond, heart, or anything like that. Just like cut your chosen shape from your main panel, I used an ink blended panel on mine, then lined it up to the card base so I could inlay the inner piece. I used acetate from packaging on the back of my panel, some score tape or double-sided tape around. Try to use liquid glue on the smaller inner bits, but that should be enough. Then press down the adhesive. Lift the corners. I always do the same sign every time. All 4 corners. Lift the backing of the adhesive. And then you can wiggle your acetate piece on top of it without committing to the position until you remove the backing fully. And then it will be in the exact place you want without slipping and moving and shifting on you. I also saved the backing to use later on future cards, and you see when in a minute. I ink blended around the butterfly, where that's really not necessary, so you might want to skip this step. I thought it would be seen through, but I put so many shaker weights that it's absolutely useless. So you could skip this step if you wanted to. This is where we use that backing from the double-sided adhesive. So I double it up front and back because when I use my scissors, I don't want the strong adhesive sticking to the blades. I am going to cut this narrower so I can use on the sides because there's not that much space. And I'll use the full length on top and bottom. I'll also use the smaller pieces around the shaped butterfly so I don't have the shaker bits running all the way top, bottom, left and right. Once all of that is done, I'll put my shaker bits in the middle. I put too much. I try to remove it, but still. I also added some glitter. Um, that's too much, guys. Don't do what I'm doing. And I placed it on my stamping platform so I can line up the card base to it and without problems, just to make it easier. Because here I don't have the adhesive in my usual way. I have to kind of be creative. Press it down well because otherwise your shaker bits might escape. But this time it went okay, it worked. And then play with it for about 30 minutes because you just can't resist it, right? I added one of the other layers from this die set um, just because I thought it would make it prettier. But you can totally skip this step if you want to. Then the body and the antenna, I believe that's the word. You could use only the body and the antenna if you want your shaker bits to be more visible and if you're using a butterfly shape like me. But I do urge you to try to use whatever you have in your stash, anything that you like and that makes you happy. Just fluffed up the wings a little bit. I added my sentiment, a few more butterflies here and there, the little ones, and I'm calling this card done. Now for our second shaker card, I used an embossed panel as the front of my card, and this is where you can see very well how to use the double-sided adhesive in your favor if you have trouble lining up panels and card bases and placing them wherever you want with strong adhesive. So I put it on all four sides, a piece in the middle, press it down, again, lift those corners, and then you can hover the panel around without committing to it. Once you're happy with your placing, then you press the middle first, remove all four sides, save those backings for a future. Well, in my case, it was now. And I had already die cut a word for my shaker space. This die actually has a die for the shadow, and that's what I used. And I'll add the word actually on top of it. I already put my acetate and I stuck it down with liquid adhesive, and now I'm just cutting down the foam adhesive into smaller pieces so I can place it all around and seal that well. Now here's another tip for you. If you need to place foam adhesive not in straight lines, this is the best way to do it. All you have to do is remove the backing from front and back, and then it's way more malleable and you can mold it into the shape that you want, the shape that you need. Now I'm just gonna do the same thing on the other side until I have all the sides covered with the double-sided foam. This is very easy to do. Once you get used to it, there's no problem. So just remember to keep the backing on both sides if you need to cut it down, and to remove it if you need to curve it around an object or an image. Now all you need to do is add your sequins or your shaker bits to the area that you're going to use. My whole area is this area in yellow in the video. It's a very small area, but it's still because of the size of the word that I chose. And I had to pick some of them up with a jewel picking tool. Then you have to just remove the backing, press it down, but press it down well, especially if you're using an embossing folder like I am in this case, so they don't go underneath the spaces in between your foam tape and the embossed panel. Then you just need to add your word on top, let the glue dry, and this card is ready to go. For the next cards, I'm using a cellophane bag. Um, this one has like stitches all around it. I don't know if you can see on the image, but I just cut one of the sides and I'm gonna use it to make an infinite shaker card where we don't really use foam tape. So I just cleaned it up a little bit to avoid the shaker bits from sticking to it. I already have a panel. I'm gonna add score tape all around the four sides on the back of my panel. This cellophane bag is slightly bigger than my card. That's why I'm only using one side. I don't really need the whole thing. And because it's slightly bigger, it will be perfect for me to adhere it. So when you're ready, you're going to remove three sides of the backing of your adhesive, and you're just going to fold the cellophane around it. Then you can cut off the excess from the corners as you need. Just don't do the last side until you have your shaker beads inside in place and um, just the way you want it to be. So here I'm trimming down the corners. This one, it stays so taut and so good that you could actually add glitter and you wouldn't leak when you shake it. So I'm just adding my shaker bits, my sequins, and then I'm gonna close the last side. For that same thing, you just need to remove the backing and press down the cellophane against it, and you're done. So usually you can add this panel to a card base, and for this one that I made, I also added die cut sentiment on top of it once it was in place. And I'm gonna do the same thing that I've done before that I showed you a couple of times. I'm gonna add the double-sided adhesive to four sides, one piece in the middle, and just lift the corners of the backing, and that will allow me to hover it and place it exactly where I wanted. When I'm happy with the placement, then I can press the center down and my panel will be exactly where I want without shifting, without sliding. That makes it easier when you're using plastic, cellophane, and things that usually slide on each other. So now all we need, oh yeah, I'm saving the backing of the adhesive so I can use it in the future to cut down my foam tape. Okay, it shakes very well. I'm not gonna lie, I played with it for like 30 minutes or so. I can't control myself apparently near shaker cards. So all you have to do now is add a beautiful sentiment, and this is it. The card is done. You don't really need anything else. I use liquid glue because I always forget to add double-sided adhesive before I die cut. But if you remember, please do that. It's easier. Um, I also trust my liquid glue better than most dry adhesives in this case to stick it down against the cellophane. But try whatever you have at hand. I just put some weights on top to hold it down until it dries, and you're done. Feel free to play for an hour or so, just like me. And we're going to move on to the next one. So this one, I'm just trying to show you that this one doesn't have the stitching. This is a sealed cellophane bag. It has all three sides sealed and no stitching, no spaces. So I just cut down my panel, my main panel, slightly smaller than a card size, and put it into the bag. This one you don't need to cut, you don't need to use the adhesive, just add your shaker bits. And then what you can do is you can seal the left side with the adhesive that comes with it. But the other option that you have is to leave it open. You can insert a gift card to the back of it and gift it to someone, so they will have to cut it open to remove the gift card. You can also add just a white panel to the back to write your message, or you can stick it down to a card base. I'm just adding a simple sentiment and I'm done. For this one, I just used a heat embossed an acetate piece, and that's what I'm going to use as my main panel. I did use too much sequence for this one, so please don't do what I'm doing. Because I did that, I you can't really see the embossed panel on this one. And I made a small mistake here. I wanted the flap that is longer to be on at the front so I can fold it to the back of the card. Otherwise, I will have to seal the card at the front, and I didn't want the seam to be at the front. So I removed everything, removed the sequins, put it all back the other way around, and then it's ready to go. Again, you can do the same thing that I said on the other one. You can leave it open so you can add a gift card to it if you want to. This one, I'm not adding anything at the moment. I can still add my gift card if I want later. So to decorate it, I'm just adding a die cut flower and a beautiful sentiment to it. And I'm calling it done. This one, I used micro dots from Simon Says Stamp on the back of my die cuts because I didn't want the glue to be showing through. But as I said, I used too much sequin, so you can't really see. If you had used glue on the back of the die cuts, no one would be able to see it. So it's an option, but not mandatory. I'll be honest with you, folks. I'm a child at heart, so there are cuts on my video, and you can't see this, but every step of the way, I am stopping and shaking my card to my heart's desire over and over and over. Um, yeah, I am a child. I can't be around shaker cards. They really make me happy, though. So for the sentiment, I'm just adding glue. As I said, you can use either a dry adhesive if you remember to do so, or liquid adhesive. Both of them work great. Every time I stick something down, I try to put one of those acrylic blocks on top to hold them down until the glue dries. Um, that's something I forget sometimes to bring my acrylic blocks when I'm crafting, and I need them all the time. So this glue actually dries very quickly. You only need to hold it down for a few seconds, but because I'm very impatient, I don't seem to be able to do that with my fingers. So I recommend the box if you have them. The dot for the eye for this sentiment is actually minuscule, and I managed not to lose it, so you all should be proud of me. Pat on the back. Now all you need to do is wait for the glue to dry and your card is ready. For the next one, we are going to have a bit less shaker bits. It's going to be easier to see. For this one, once again, I used the same clear cellophane bag and just an acetate panel with a die cut. If you don't have embossing powders but you have a die cut, you can use that instead. Just use a beautiful one that you like, that has a lot of empty space. And I said I would put less shaker bits, but I still used a lot. Then all you need is a sentiment. Again, I'm using micro dots, but I could have used just glue. You can, once again, add a gift card inside. Here I'm showing you that you can add it to a card base and add your gift card before you do that, before you seal it. But for now, I'm just keeping it like this. And later I can decide if I want to add it to a card or not, if I want to add a gift card inside or not. I can decide it later. I am just trimming down the adhesive that came with it because this one I wanted a bit shorter, and also because it has very small shaker bits, I'm doubling up the adhesive so you won't escape through the spaces. For the last one, I used a foiled vellum panel. You can foil one yourself. You can foil on acetate if the acetate is heat resistant. resistant, sorry. But because I had this one and it's very pretty and I really like it, I just used it the way it is and added some stars, a sentiment die cut once again. By now I probably sound like a broken record, but just remember you can use glue or dry adhesive on the back of these sentiments. I never remembered to put double-sided adhesive before I die cut, so I end up using glue most of the times. But I also tried the micro dots and they worked great. And if you have a panel that you intend to use as a clear or transparent or translucent shaker card, you might use the micro dots because they will absolutely not show through. The glue, I kind of really like it because it allows you to wiggle and whatnot. And once it dries clear, so it's not a problem. Just a reminder that you can add this panel to a card base and use it as a regular card. If you're enjoying these ideas, please like and subscribe. I have way more where these ones came from. Here's my bonus card that I made with the negative pieces from this one that I showed you before. And this is it for today. Happy crafting!